Hello everyone, welcome to Inside Winston Cup Racing. We're at the 2-mile Michigan International Speedway near Brooklyn, Michigan. This is where they ran the Miller Genuine Draft 400 NASCAR Winston Cup race this past weekend. A little bit nippy in the morning, but a beautiful day for racing. We have a lot for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing, and here's what's coming up.
Well, Davey Allison simply dominated the Miller Genuine Draft 400 to pick up his third victory of 1991. We'll show you exactly how he did it coming up.
It was a hot and tired but a happy Chuck Bound in Victory Lane at Myrtle Beach, his second win of the season on the Grand National Circuit. We'll have all the highlights of the Carolina Pride Budweiser 250 from Myrtle Beach.
Jeff Gordon, David Green, and Tracy Leslie are the top contenders for this year's Busch Series Rookie Championship. You'll hear their thoughts on the fight for the title.
Today's show is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
After a 4-race suspension, Junior Johnson and Tim Brewer were back in action here with the Budweiser Ford this past weekend, and number 11 was back on the side of the car that Jeff Bodine drives. That was just part of the news. For the balance of it, as well as highlights of the Miller Genuine Draft 400, here's Randy Pemberton.
Well, Junior Johnson and his team continue to be in the news here at Michigan. It was rumored here that Bill Elliott may join that operation in 1992 as a driver. What will happen to Coors and his family-owned operation? That remains to be seen. What will happen to Jeff Bodine, driver of the Budweiser Ford Thunderbirds? That also remains to be seen. Also, longtime mechanic and jackman for that team, Pete Wright, has elected to leave that team after the Michigan race here, and he will join the Stavola Brothers Racing with driver Rick Wilson as a crew chief. On Tuesday and Wednesday after Michigan, NASCAR took 5 drivers and 5 makes of cars to Talladega to test some aerodynamic possibilities that will help them cut back on the carburetor restrictor plates. They've added to the roof strips that run along the top of the windows and also added some sheet metal at the rear of the bumper, which extends down to the ground. That will give the drivers some more control over the race cars. We'll see if that may take place by Talladega.
Today's Winston Cup highlights are brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
The Miller Genuine Draft 400 started out to be one of the most competitive super speedway races of the season. Unfortunately for Derek Koch, who qualified 10th, he wasn't involved as the engine in his Purolator Chevy let go on lap 2. With only one caution flag thrown through the 2-hour and 30-minute event, the pace put forth by Davey Allison's dominant Ford Thunderbird had most digging to stay on the lead lap. Well, they needed a bigger shovel as Allison, who led 107 circuits, gave up the lead only on scheduled gas stops. With Miller as the race sponsor and Penske as the track owner, Rusty Wallace needed to have a good showing, but his Pontiac just didn't have the power, and he never got near the front and finished 17th. Rusty wasn't the only one that had a tough race, as Ricky Rudd almost got wrecked, not once, but twice, as Buddy Baker bounced off Rudd as the two raced out of turn 4. Baker finished 30th, Rudd recovered to finish 8th and hold on to 2nd place in the points. Jeff Bodine looked like the only match for Davey, but debris from someone else's race car battered his oil pan, and Bodine would have to retire on lap 70. The Buick of Hut Strickland, which is owned by Davey's dad, Bobby, had its best run ever, consistently showing in the lead or the top 2 or 3. But Davey was not to be denied, as he made mincemeat out of most of the field, and by lap 150 of the 200, only 10 cars remained on the lead lap. Mark Martin managed his second third-place showing in a row, but Michael Waltrip, the pole sitter, who sat in the top 5 most of the afternoon, ended up sitting on the sidelines when his Pennzoil Pontiac's power plant stopped putting out and Michael fell out with 15 laps to go. Earnhardt would earn his 10th top 5 of the season by finishing 4th. But Allison was out of sight over the last 50 laps, registering 11 seconds ahead of Hutt when he hit the stripe to pick up his third win of 1991, pushing his season earnings to nearly $900,000.
The racetrack was green to start with, and the car was a little loose, but we just left it alone. We didn't even adjust on it. We just let the racetrack come back to us, and the further we ran, the better we got. And then late in the race, we made a couple of little minor stagger adjustments, and it was just what we needed. It just sent us that much further ahead.
Dave Mayer III won a rain-shortened ARCA race here at the Michigan International Speedway on Saturday afternoon. We need to take a short break. Still to come are highlights of the Carolina Pride Bud 250 from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we'll also take a look at the rookie crop in Busch Grand National Racing this year. And as we leave you for this break, here's the balance of the finishing order for the Miller Genuine Draft 400. There's a good battle going on this year in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series for Rookie of the Year honors, and so too in the Busch Grand National Series. That series has served a good purpose over the years for drivers who want to get experience, who hope to move on into Winston Cup racing. Now, there are some good rookies this year that I think we'll see in Winston Cup racing somewhere down the road. Let's take a look at some of them.
Busch Grand National Rookie of the Year is a pretty big accomplishment. If you look at the guys who have won it, Kenny Wallace, you know, there's some other guys that are really tough.
But Jeff Gordon has been tough in his own right. The young California driver currently leads the Busch rookie standings and has already racked up an impressive 6 top 10 finishes, as well as a pole position at Orange County. So far this year, Gordon has done everything but win, and realizes that his competition is much more than just the other rookies.
I'm not competing against David or Tracy or the other guys I'm running with for rookie. I'm competing with the other Busch guys. I'm trying to win, you know, every time I go out there, I'm trying to run as good as I can, either win the race or run a top 5, top 10. You know, we're just trying to race the racetrack, not really any other competitors.
With 15 events remaining, Jeff is by no means a shoo-in for the BGN rookie title. But despite his youth, he has a veteran's viewpoint on what it takes to win.
Try to be in the top 10 as much as possible. Try to finish every race. You know, whether you're 25th or, you know, whether you're 5th, it really doesn't matter. You really need to finish every race. The laps are what is really important. And, you know, and then try also run as well as you can, because with guys like David Green, Tracy Leslie, and the guys that are really running good, you know, you got to also finish the race, but finish ahead of them.
Winning it or losing it isn't going to make the difference for next year, but it would be a big star in my corner.
David Green has already picked up 1 star this season with his first ever Busch Grand National win at Gainesville, Georgia. The win was no fluke. Green has been consistently competitive all season, beating veterans like Dale Earnhardt at Bristol, where he finished 2nd. David attributes a lot of his team's success to hard work and good old-fashioned door-to-door racing.
The deal with Jeff over here, you know, Gordon, it seems like every week, you know, he's either behind me or I'm behind him, and it makes my team work harder. Plus, I know it makes his team work harder, too, you know. So we have like an on-track battle, even though we're battling the other 30-some cars. So I think it's helpful on both of our parts, and I enjoy racing with him.
Unfortunately, David missed 3 races, and that set him back a bit. Green is optimistic that he and the Fillmore race team can catch the hard-charging Jeff Gordon.
I feel like toward the end of the year, you know, we can really mend a little bit and make it a little closer. I really felt like I had a little up on him, you know, on a pole deal, and then he went and got a pole last week at Orange County. So, and I really look for him to win a race before the year's over. So it's really going to come down to it toward the end of the year.
Although I'd like to win it, you know, that's not really what I worry about when I'm racing. You know, I mainly worry to finish good and as far up as I can.
The 33-year-old Michigan native knows how to finish well, winning the 1988 ARCA Championship. In the first half of the 91 Busch season, Tracy has grabbed 2 top 10 finishes, one at Bristol, the other at Hickory. But Lady Luck hasn't been too kind to the Detroit Gasket team, kicking Leslie back to 3rd in the points battle. He knows the deficit can be recovered, and he hasn't given up.
No, you know, with 180 points to the winner, you know, naturally you could pick up a lot of points if just something freak happened, you know. Jeff's got a good lead, but, you know, I mean, he deserves it. He's run awful good all year. I mean, he's run up front. He's sat on the pole. He's had a chance to win a couple races along with David Green. I mean, we haven't had our streak of luck yet, and we're hoping to turn it around right quick.
The turnaround will be tough, but Tracy worries more about hooking up with the veterans than running with the rookies.
Although you're worried about them, you know, you try to pick some of the best guys that's racing out there and you try to hang on to them, because if you run with them, you take somebody like Tommy Houston or Jimmy Hensley, Chuck Mound, they always run up front and they're always there at the end. I mean, if you can hang on to guys like that, then you'll have good finishes, and like I said, then the rookie deal will come.
There are many component parts in an engine, and most of them have something to do with producing horsepower, but none are more important than the camshaft. And that's the subject this week of our Haviland Track Talk.
This edition of Track Talk is brought to you by Haviland. Add more life to your car.
Winston Cup racing engines are the result of timeless hours of testing, development, and performance. And at $30,000 apiece, they're expected to perform. And at the center of it all is the camshaft. And a good one is worth its weight in gold.
With us, we run competition cams, and we relate with them on what we're going to do, and they do a lot of research for us, and they send us stuff when we try it. We don't do our own grinding and stuff, and it makes our job a whole lot easier. All we basically have to do is install it, run it on the dynos, see if it's what we like, and tell them what we like, and they make a few more changes, and we go from there.
If the carburetor is the heart of the engine, the camshaft is the backbone. It allows an engine to be transformed for different tracks.
We run just about a different cam everywhere we go, depending on what kind of size of racetrack it is, where we want our power to be. It also controls the power, whether you want low-end horsepower or top-end horsepower, or wherever you want your horsepower to be.
It's a rarity to have a failure of a cam, but even the best of pieces break once in a while, like last year at Dover during Earnhardt's drive for a 4th title.
Being that we were running for the championship, we try to do everything we can to get all the points we can, so we pulled the motor out of the car, we changed the cam, and went back out and run. We didn't finish the race, but we picked up, you know, a few points, picked up at least 3 positions.
Teams take different race cars to different tracks, and along with that, different engines, which means different cams.
It moves your torque up and down, depending on how you have your cam set and how it opens and closes the valves. It changes basically the whole performance of the motor. You can do that by changing the cam.
Wesley Mills is a fabricator on the Western Auto Chevrolet, but someday hopes to make his living behind the wheel. And with the support of car owner Darrell Waltrip, Wes hopes to compete on the Grand National circuit.
Not since Road Atlanta in 1987 has the Busch Series turned left and right on a road course. That'll all change with the running of the Phase 150 in Watkins Glen, New York. We'll have the highlights.
And we'll also take a look at the first half of the 1991 Winston Cup season. A familiar face now leads the point standings, but there have been some new faces in victory lane and some new numbers on cars. We'll take a look at some of the highs and lows.
The NASCAR Busch Grand National Series was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina this past weekend for the Carolina Pride Bud 250, and Chuck Bowen was the man of the hour.
Ned, on the front row at Myrtle Beach, a talented twosome, both trying to flex some mid-season muscle. Outside row 1, Kenny Wallace looking to overhaul Jimmy Hensley and Bobby Labonte in the points race. And on the pole for the 3rd time this season, Chuck Bowen. And Chuck, we all know about the bad luck you've had. Is this the day it's going to turn it around for you?
Well, I certainly hope so. You know, the last time I talked to you at Darlington, things have been going terrible, and we come back and got a win at Nazareth. So maybe you can bring me some good luck today here at Myrtle Beach. We could certainly use it.
32 cars rolled out on a sunny and very warm day in Myrtle Beach. Bowen led the battle early, with Wallace running a strong second. The first of 12 cautions flew on lap 7, for Kenny Gregg and Eddie Goodson. Bound looked confident and consistent until Wallace roped him in on lap 38. Once again, Chuck's luck soured. A bad right rear tire forced Bound to nurse the Nescafe Classic car the next several laps. Wallace was another victim of tire troubles, and Jeff Burton bolted to the lead on lap 49 as Kenny started slipping back. But the ailing received treatment when Robert Powell brought out the yellow on lap 58. The wounded charged to the pits for fresh rubber, and Steve Grissom inherited the lead, running with a backup motor installed less than 30 minutes before the race. Wallace recaptured the lead on lap 90 when Grissom grabbed fresh rubber under caution. Jimmy Hensley's hopes of a high finish were flattened when tire woes put him in the pits under green. On lap 113, the most significant dilemma of the day. On a restart, leader Wallace was suddenly stung by the tire monster and could not get up to speed. The field got funneled behind him. Bound and Jeff Burton got by, but Ward Burton ran into the crippled Cox car in turn 4. Wallace spun and collected points leader Bobby Labonte. Wallace continued, but Bobby lost several laps and points while his crew customized his car. Meanwhile, Bound locked onto the lead and turned back the tide of Myrtle Beach contenders, including David Green roaring from 31st to 2nd, and Grissom Bound's back door during the closing laps. Chuck led the last 138 laps and posted his second win of the season. Robert Presley made a late pass for second. Grissom finished third.
What were you thinking when those tires went down on you?
Well, I was just thinking if we can just stay in the lead lap, you know, there's a long way to go. It's early in the race. Plenty of time to get back to the front. And actually, we got back to the front a little quicker than I thought we would have. But I think that was mostly because others took their turn with flat tires. So it was just one of those days. I think everybody will remember this race this year at Myrtle Beach as a flat tire race.
Today's mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
Our question this week is from the voicemail box from Gary Doyle of Davie, Florida.
How are the wheel studs or lug nuts designed to prevent them from cross-threading?
Okay, Gary, thanks for calling in. The lug nuts are glued on the wheels, and the reason they don't fall off is because we have a taper here on the stud, which allows you to slip the wheel up on there so we can make the 4-tire stop as quick as possible in like 22 seconds is the average.
If you have any race questions, you can write to us at Inside Winston Cup Racing, Box 240417, Charlotte 28224. Or you can now call us at 1-900-84-RACES. Charge is $1 per minute, average call 2 minutes. Fans 18 and under, get your parents' permission before calling. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket free. Fans 21 and under will receive an IWCR cap and T-shirt.
Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. The NASCAR Winston Cup drivers have this weekend off before they go to Daytona for the Pepsi 400. We'll see you right here next week on TNN.
Today's show has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Winning the world over with 1991 trucks that are built Ford tough. By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Inside Winston Cup clothing provided in part by Sports Image Incorporated, suppliers of quality racing apparel. Communications for Inside Winston Cup Racing Crew provided by Racing Radios, Forest Park, Georgia, the official communications of NASCAR. Transportation for Inside Winston Cup Racing provided by Fleetwood Enterprises, makers of a full line of excellent recreational vehicles. And by your Carolina Ford dealers. Nobody outsells Ford in the Carolinas. To purchase an official Inside Winston Cup Racing cap or T-shirt, or to join the Inside Winston Cup Racing Sports Club, send check or money order plus $4 shipping and handling to Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte 28224. And for Visa MasterCard orders, call 1-800-692-7777.